Silence often hides the deepest minds in the room. The people who understand emotions the most are usually the ones sitting alone, pulling away quietly, watching more than they speak. Modern society treats loneliness like a failure, as if having fewer friends automatically means a person is broken, awkward, or emotionally weak. But the truth is far more unsettling. Some people become isolated not because they cannot connect with others, but because they can see through people too clearly. Powerful empaths notice the small emotional details others ignore. A forced smile, a fake compliment, a hidden resentment behind kind words. They feel tension before arguments even begin. They absorb energy from conversations that most people forget within seconds. And after years of carrying emotions that were never theirs to carry, many of them slowly stop opening the door to everyone. What looks like distance from the outside is often emotional survival on the inside. Deep people are rarely lonely because nobody wants them around. They become lonely because shallow relationships slowly start feeling unbearable. This is why some of the kindest souls eventually become quiet, guarded, and difficult to reach. Not because they stopped caring, but because they cared too much for too long. Psychologists have quietly studied emotional sensitivity for years, and many experts now believe highly empathetic people process social experiences more intensely than the average person. Their brains react strongly to emotional environments, stress, tension, and even the moods of strangers. That means everyday interactions can become mentally exhausting in ways most people never fully understand. While others recover quickly from fake friendships or emotional betrayal, powerful empaths tend to replay conversations, analyze behaviors, and carry emotional wounds much longer. And one hidden truth rarely discussed is this: the more emotionally aware someone becomes, the harder it becomes for them to tolerate performative relationships. Over time, they stop chasing popularity, they stop forcing conversations, they stop begging to be understood. Instead, they begin protecting their peace with almost ruthless precision. Many people mistake this for arrogance, coldness, or emotional distance. But underneath that silence is usually someone who has already given too much of themselves to the wrong people. In this video, you will discover why powerful empaths often have very few friends, why emotional depth can create isolation, and why solitude sometimes becomes a hidden form of strength instead of weakness. You'll also learn the psychological reason empaths become emotionally selective, the quiet habits that separate them from others, and the painful experiences that force them to withdraw from superficial connections. Some of these truths are uncomfortable because they reveal how modern relationships often reward performance more than authenticity. And near the end of this video, we'll uncover one of the darkest realities about powerful empaths that most people never realize until it is too late. So stay with me until the end, because this topic goes much deeper than loneliness. If deep psychological insights and hidden human behaviors interest you, then welcome to the channel. Subscribe now, like this video, and join a community that understands the emotions most people never talk about. One of the biggest lies society tells emotionally deep people is that sensitivity is weakness. The moment someone feels deeply, notices too much, or reacts strongly to emotional tension, they are quickly labeled as dramatic, needy, unstable, or overly emotional. But powerful empaths are not weak because they feel more. In many cases, they are simply more aware than the people around them. Most individuals walk into a room and only hear words. Empaths notice the pauses between words. They notice the change in tone when someone pretends to be happy. They notice forced laughter, hidden irritation, fake enthusiasm, and emotional discomfort that nobody else seems to catch. Their minds constantly read emotional patterns without effort. This is why many empaths become mentally exhausted in social situations that seem completely normal to everyone else. A short conversation can drain them for hours because their brain is processing far more than simple communication. They are reading energy, tension, body language, emotional contradictions, and silent emotional signals all at once. And the difficult part is that most people do not even realize how emotionally inconsistent they are. Someone can smile while secretly feeling resentment. Someone can offer support while quietly competing with you. Someone can speak kindly while emotionally manipulating the entire conversation. Powerful empaths often sense these hidden emotional shifts almost immediately, which is why they struggle to relax around fake people. Small talk starts feeling empty because surface-level conversations rarely match the emotional truth underneath them. Over time, this creates a painful disconnect between empaths and the world around them. People assume they are distant or antisocial, but the reality is much deeper than that. Empaths do not avoid people because they hate human connection. They avoid emotional dishonesty because constantly feeling emotional contradiction becomes exhausting. Their nervous system grows tired of pretending everything feels normal when internally they can sense tension everywhere. This is also why powerful empaths slowly begin distancing themselves from others after enough emotional disappointment. In most relationships, they naturally become the emotional support system. They are the listeners, the comforters, the problem solvers, and the emotionally available ones. Friends come to them during breakdowns. Family members unload stress onto them. Partners rely on them for emotional stability. And because empaths genuinely care, they keep giving without immediately noticing how unbalanced the relationship has become. They answer late-night calls. They absorb other people's pain. They try to understand everyone's perspective. They forgive repeatedly because they see the wounds behind people's behavior. But eventually, a quiet realization starts forming inside them. Many people love access to empathy without ever offering empathy in return. Some people only show up when they need emotional healing. Some disappear the moment the empath needs support back. And for emotionally deep people, this imbalance slowly becomes impossible to ignore. After years of overgiving, powerful empaths begin protecting themselves differently. They stop explaining their feelings to people who never listen deeply. They stop chasing friendships that feel one-sided. They stop forcing emotional intimacy where authenticity does not exist. From the outside, it can look like withdrawal, isolation, or emotional coldness, but internally it is survival. Their distance is not punishment, it is protection. They finally realize that unlimited emotional access should not be given to everyone simply because they have a kind heart. As they grow emotionally older, another painful shift begins happening. Many relationships that once felt normal suddenly start feeling artificial. Conversations become repetitive, performative friendships become obvious, fake loyalty becomes easier to recognize. Powerful empaths start noticing how often people hide behind social masks just to fit in, gain approval, or avoid vulnerability. And once someone becomes deeply aware of emotional performance, it becomes very difficult to feel emotionally connected in shallow environments. Forced conversations begin draining them faster than silence ever could. One-sided friendships become unbearable because empaths naturally crave emotional reciprocity. They want depth, honesty, emotional safety, and genuine presence. But modern relationships often revolve around convenience, distraction, attention, and surface-level interaction. This is why many powerful empaths slowly stop caring about popularity or social validation. Peace becomes more valuable than attention. Silence becomes more comforting than fake company. Being alone starts feeling emotionally safer than sitting in rooms full of people who never truly see them. And this is where most outsiders misunderstand them completely. Some people fear loneliness because they need constant distraction from themselves. Powerful empaths fear emotional emptiness far more than physical isolation. A shallow connection can make them feel lonelier than complete solitude ever could. One of the hardest parts of being a powerful empath is feeling everything deeply while struggling to explain any of it clearly. Their emotional world is incredibly intense, yet most of it stays trapped inside their mind. They replay conversations long after everyone else forgets them. A simple change in someone's tone can stay in their thoughts for hours. A strange silence, a cold reaction, or emotional distance from someone they care about can affect them more deeply than people realize. And because empaths naturally internalize emotions instead of expressing them immediately, others often misunderstand their silence. Friends may assume they are overthinking for no reason. Some see them as distant, moody, or too serious. Others think they are emotionally complicated simply because they notice details most people ignore. But inside the empath's mind, there is constant emotional processing happening beneath the surface. They absorb tension from rooms. They carry emotional residue from conversations. They feel the moods of others without even trying. This creates an exhausting inner world where their nervous system rarely gets complete rest. Many empaths become quiet not because they have nothing to say, but because explaining emotional depth to emotionally unavailable people starts feeling pointless. Over time, they learn that most individuals only understand emotions at a surface level. They hear words but miss emotional meaning. They respond to reactions without understanding the emotional buildup behind them. And the more emotionally aware an empath becomes, the more disconnected they begin feeling from environments built on shallow communication, fake positivity, and emotional avoidance. Crowded spaces can suddenly feel empty. Loud conversations can feel emotionally hollow. Even surrounded by people, they often feel alone because very few individuals truly understand the emotional weight they silently carry every day. But slowly something starts changing inside powerful empaths after years of emotional exhaustion. What once felt like loneliness begins transforming into awareness. Their solitude becomes less painful and more intentional. They stop seeing isolation as rejection and start recognizing it as emotional clarity. Instead of constantly chasing connection, they begin protecting their peace. Instead of begging to be understood, they become more selective about who deserves access to their inner world. This is the hidden strength most people never notice about emotionally deep individuals. Their silence is often growth happening privately. They start learning boundaries after years of overextending themselves emotionally. They begin understanding that empathy without limits attracts emotional takers. So they slowly stop abandoning themselves just to keep others comfortable. Validation becomes less important. Attention becomes less addictive. Approval loses its emotional control over them. And for the first time in their lives, they start feeling emotionally independent instead of emotionally responsible for everyone around them. Silence no longer feels empty. It becomes healing. Time alone becomes restorative instead of lonely. They discover peace in disconnecting from emotional chaos, drama, fake loyalty, and exhausting relationships. Many outsiders misunderstand this transformation completely. People assume powerful empaths isolate because nobody wants them around. But the deeper truth is that peace eventually becomes more valuable to them than performance. They no longer want relationships built on convenience, emotional dependency, or social appearances. They would rather sit alone in honesty than surround themselves with people who force them to betray their emotional instincts. And this is the part most people never fully understand until it is too late. Powerful empaths can love harder than almost anyone else. They forgive more than they should. They tolerate behavior that would make others walk away immediately. Because they see pain behind actions, they constantly give second chances, third chances, and sometimes even endless chances. They keep hoping people will become more self-aware. They keep believing emotional honesty will eventually appear. But every empath has a breaking point hidden beneath their patience. Every ignored feeling, every betrayal, every emotional manipulation, and every one-sided relationship slowly builds pressure internally. And unlike explosive personalities, powerful empaths rarely announce when they are emotionally done. Their detachment happens quietly. One day they simply stop reaching out. They stop explaining. They stop fighting for the connection. The emotional door closes silently because exhaustion finally replaced hope. And what makes this even more painful is that many people only recognize the empath's value after losing them completely. They miss the loyalty, the emotional support, the deep understanding, and the rare emotional safety that person gave them. But by then, the empath has already disconnected emotionally in a way that is very difficult to reverse. The quietest goodbye often comes from the person who cared the most, because deep people do not leave when they are angry. They leave when they realize their emotional presence was never truly appreciated. So no, powerful empaths are not lonely because they failed at friendship, social connection, or communication. Most of them walked away after learning one painful truth again and again. Access to a kind heart is often taken for granted. After years of carrying emotions for other people, fixing problems they did not create, and staying loyal in situations that slowly destroyed their peace, they finally became more careful about who they allow into their inner world. What many people call isolation is often an empath choosing honesty over performance. They stopped forcing conversations that felt empty. They stopped begging for emotional reciprocity from people who only understood surface-level connection. And they stopped shrinking themselves just to fit into spaces that never truly valued emotional depth. That silence people notice in powerful empaths is rarely bitterness, it is exhaustion mixed with wisdom. Because once someone understands the emotional cost of fake loyalty, manipulation, emotional inconsistency, and one-sided relationships, peace becomes sacred, solitude becomes protection, and emotional distance becomes survival. The strongest souls are often the most emotionally careful because they understand how deeply genuine connection can affect the human heart. They know what it feels like to give everything emotionally and still feel unseen. They know how painful it is to sit in a crowded room and still feel disconnected from everyone around them. But they also know something most people never learn. Real connection is rare. Real emotional honesty is rare. And protecting your peace is not selfish when the world constantly demands access to your energy without understanding your emotional weight. If this video felt personal, it is because people like you often move through life feeling misunderstood in silence. Deep feelers rarely speak about how much they carry internally, but you are not the only one who experiences the world this deeply. There are others who notice everything, overthink everything, feel everything, and still continue moving through life quietly. And sometimes understanding yourself changes everything. If you want more deep psychological insights about human behavior, emotional intelligence, narcissism, empathy, and the hidden patterns most people never notice, subscribe to the channel and become part of this community. Like this video if you connected with it, and share it with someone who feels everything deeply but rarely says a word about it. Sometimes the quietest people are fighting the loudest emotional battles inside.